I say this from love, from deep love and passionate commitment. The field of language teaching is broken. The field of language teaching is broken. The field of language teaching is broken. What do I mean by broken? What do we want language teaching to achieve? Why do we have language courses in all of our schools? Why do we take language courses at university? Why do we institute national multiple language programs? Why are we doing that? As far as I can figure, it's because we want multilingual societies. But that's not what we're getting. In instances where we're getting truly multilingual societies, we're mostly not getting them because of the school programs. And in instances where we are relying on the school programs, we're not getting multilingual societies. We're getting mostly monolingual societies with a hierarchy where actually monolingual people are privileged in those societies over people who are multilingual for reasons other than the school programs that they took. So in short, the school programs are not impeding monolingualism, and they are enabling the replication of power structures where monolinguals, who know less, are more powerful, more at ease, have more access, are more desired for employment than people who are multilingual who know more. So not only are language education programs as a whole on an international scale not shifting us toward a more multilingual world, they're also not even shifting our ideologies about language, how we feel about language, or even the respect we hold or the value we assign to multilingualism. If that's not failure, what would failure look like? As with any good problem, we have to ask multiple whys. First of all, why are they failing? I would argue they're failing because they still work like this. This is the colonial school model or the factory school model, the authoritarian school model that assumes that things are learned by memorizing them and then passing tests where you get things right or wrong, and where the amount of studying you do with a book, a notebook, maybe a CD, is equivalent to how much you actually learn and gain and how much your brain is actually developed through the experience. And they're run like that system for the most part. Some cosmetic changes, some minor changes have been made in most classrooms that I know of, but the underlying structure and the underlying assumptions of what will result in learning, which presumably is multilingualism, are made based on this model. I'm sharing this photo because does anybody like this model? Are any of us truly convinced that this is a model for how humans can flourish and succeed? An alternative model is this: kids or learners of any age collaborating, communicating, doing things that interest them and that build up their relationships to themselves, to the world, to one another. Also, this: being in the world, experiencing the world, going on adventures, actually learning about the way the world is and being in relationship with the world through the medium of the language that we want to acquire. And actually, this, which is learning from our elders by doing activities together so that the language that is being spoken is actually the language of the community that we are participating in an authentic, real way, rather than some abstract thing that's been reduced to a book or something that is learned as a subject instead of as a way of being in community. The most common justification that I hear for why people are not becoming multilingual because of our language programs is, well, it takes a long time and we just don't have that kind of time to commit in schools. And I have to ask you, what makes you think it takes a long time? I think you're basing that on your experiences of not learning languages, not becoming fluent in languages over years and years of schooling, which is an accurate reflection of how effective the schooling program was, but not an accurate reflection of how long languages actually take to learn. You can look up various philosophies and methods for estimating this, but I'll tell you my personal experience. I started as an L1 English speaker, which means that French is far, but not terribly far from my first language. And I was proficient, able to live my whole life in French in 6 months with very little formal teaching. I simply learned through immersion with a little bit of structured help. That's French. You say it's similar to English. Okay. Arabic is almost as different as it can get. And I learned Arabic in about 9 months. 9 months of immersion and real world experiences, again, with really minimal formal instruction, helped me a little bit. Access to, I guess, a dictionary, but I also became proficient in a dialect that wasn't very well represented in the dictionary because my main source of learning was being in community. That's what immersion is. And if you want to go through the research, immersion works the best. So when I say that programs can produce highly proficient speakers in under 2 years, I'm actually giving us a lot of wiggle room because actually I think we can do it in under a year if we really decide to. And yes, for any language. Our collective experiences of languages taking years and years and years and years, and mostly we're saying that after not having become highly proficient speakers of those languages, are based on programs that didn't work because language education is broken and the methods that we are used to using are ineffective. That leads us to an additional why, which is why would we have international systems running in thousands of schools, hundreds of municipalities, states, countries, provinces, using methods that we know don't work? Why would we do that? And don't get me wrong, I think the vast majority of people within that system are doing their absolute best and trying really hard, but they get burnt out. They're super frustrated. It's kind of soul deadening to teach a language for years and years and never produce a fluent speaker of that language. To teach someone for years and years and years and then see them only move beyond the most basic levels when they actually travel to an immersion environment. And for our endangered and indigenous languages, traveling to an immersion environment might actually be impossible. So people are getting burnt out on a hamster wheel of a system that we know through mountains of data and almost all of our personal lives does not work. Why are we allowing that to happen? And I think that that's another series of videos, but it's worth asking who in our society is benefiting from the fact that most people are monolingual and therefore not in meaningful relationship with societies in what we often call very problematically the global South, where most people are multilingual. And in fact, they're multilingual from their communities. They're organically multilingual because of the environments that they live in. Why are we not wanting large numbers of our students and neighbors to be in meaningful, deep, lifelong relationship with speakers of multiple other languages and seeing the world through their eyes and understanding their point of view on a deeper level? Why did the people who constructed our society build schools just for the purpose of killing languages explicitly? Why did they want languages to die out? Why was physical abuse and torture used to discourage people from maintaining their multilingualism? Why did they even build schools like this in the first place? What were these schools really for? And if we move to a model of actually learning on and from the land, being in relationship with elders, with traditional teachings, building communities around each language that we choose to learn and being in meaningful intergenerational, international relationship with each other, why would that not be desirable? I think the only way to meaningfully fix our language education system that is not only spread internationally, but is even being normalized in countries where people are multilingual even though we know it doesn't work, is to question the power structures that underlie it and intentionally move towards systems that upend those power dynamics and that directly build the world we want to build. We can be fluent in a new language in 2 years or less, which means we have time, even in our schooling, much less our whole lifetime, to learn a lot of languages and to be in community with a lot of people. Language learning can be a healing and empowering experience instead of frustrating and embarrassing. We can build communities that share healthy practices, sustainable lifestyles, critical points of view through the medium of multiple languages. That can be our norm. But the first step is to say, this system doesn't work, wasn't built for us, and we don't want it anymore. I'm Anka. I help communities save their languages and language teachers become more effective by nurturing new fluent speakers faster and having more fun. And this is why I do that.